election yard here, we have more special elections to talk about. The second group of special elections that we've had here in 2026, these took place on Tuesday, January 13th. There were 4 of them that we're going to talk about. There was one in Alabama, there was one in Connecticut, and there were 2 in Virginia. So you're going to see some more special elections coming up in the Commonwealth of Virginia in the next couple of weeks. When Abigail Spanberger won the governor's race, the Democrats won a huge majority in the House of Delegates. And what's been happening is some of those people have been getting picked to cabinet posts with Spanberger, so they've been resigning. And then, of course, you also had the Senate special election last week because Ghazala Hashmi has been elected the lieutenant governor. There are going to be more special elections in Virginia coming up next week to fill some of the remaining vacancies in the House of Delegates as the session begins. And of course, Abigail Spanberger is going to be sworn in as governor of Virginia this weekend. The Democrats in Virginia riding a high, and that high is continuing, and we'll get into some of the specific results. So what we're going to do is we're going to go seat by seat like we did last week, and we're going to tell you, did the parties do better or worse than they did in the last election? Or did the parties do better or worse than they did in the 2024 presidential election? So we're going to go alphabetical on down the line. You're going to start in Alabama. This is the 63rd district. This was previously a Republican seat, and it is based out of Tuscaloosa. It's not the entire city of Tuscaloosa, but it is part of it. And the Republicans had held this seat before. They will hold this seat now. Norman Crow, the Republican, was the winner here against Judith Taylor. Norman Crow doing pretty well for himself, 64.46% against 35.5% for Judith Taylor. But there was a marginal swing to the Democrats in this seat. And this, when you look at the swing here, this is based off of the last election in this seat. Now, Alabama is a rarity in the United States in that its state house serves 4-year terms. So this was based off of the change that you see under the vote percentages there. Those are against the 2022 election for the Alabama House. And then all of the seats are up again for 4-year terms here in 2026. But the Republicans hold the seat by about 500 votes. But then, as we're going to do against all of the seats, well, save for one, and we'll explain that in a minute. This is the change against the 2024 presidential election. So you see Donald Trump won this district by about 18 points about a year and a half ago, less than a year and a half ago. But the Republicans here won this seat by 29. So this was actually a good-sized overperformance for the Republicans here. This is the first one that we've seen so far this year. And I will also note it's the only one you're going to see tonight. There was the one race in Connecticut and then 2 in Virginia. Those were Democratic overperformances. So let's shift gears now to the Connecticut race. You can see a very, very oddly shaped district in eastern Connecticut. That's sometimes how these things work. So the district kind of snakes its way around Norwich. It includes Mohegan Sun. So if you've been to the casino out there, Mohegan Sun, that's in this district. And then it kind of moves down towards I-95 as it rides along the coast. So this was a Democratic seat. The incumbent here passed away. So the seat was up for grabs. This was a seat that Kamala Harris only won by a few points. And the Democrats won this seat in the 2024 election by less than 10 points. But as you can see, Larry Pemberton, the Democrat here, he won this seat going away. He won with about 64.5% of the vote. Brandon Sabig, the Republican, got about 28.5%. There was also an independent in this race. He got about 7% of the vote. But it's pretty clear which direction things were going in the 139th district of Connecticut. There was a pretty sizable swing to the Democrats here. 13.5 points. You see the Democratic vote share up about 10 points from the 2024 election. The GOP vote share down almost 17 points. So the Democrats, in what was a single-digit race in 2024, the Democrats won this seat by 36 points. So the reason we don't have a graphic to show you the overperformance versus 2024 is because the data that I was finding was a little bit unreliable. I saw some data which suggested that Kamala Harris won this district by a few points. I saw some other political analysts saying Kamala Harris won the district by a few points. I couldn't get specific numbers, but I also saw a data analyst that suggested that they thought Donald Trump actually won this district, which I don't think is true. However, I think it's pretty safe to say this was a Democratic overperformance. The Democrats won the seat by 36 points in the special election. Kamala Harris most certainly did not win it by that much in 2024. That much is for certain. So this was definitely a Democratic overperformance. And now we'll move down to Virginia. There were 2 special elections in Virginia. This is the first one in the 11th House of Delegates district. You can just see a little splotch of blue there. So this seat is a pretty blue seat. It includes the city of Fairfax and part of the county of Fairfax. Of course, Virginia, we got independent cities here, and Fairfax City is one of them, and that's part of this district, but it also has a little bit of Fairfax County there too. So David Bulova was the member here. He's now in Abigail Spanberger's cabinet, or will be soon. Gretchen Bulova, his wife, won the seat with 68.8% of the vote against the Republican Adam Wise, who just ran for this seat a couple of months ago in the general election. He got about 31%. There was actually a swing to the Republicans of about 4.6% from that 2025 November election, but doesn't really change the outcome very much, as the Democrats ended up winning the seat by about 38 points in this election. Now, when you compare that to the 2024 presidential election, Kamala Harris won this seat by about 35.7 points. The Democrats winning this seat tonight by about 38. So it was a Democratic overperformance of a little over 2 points. And then the final seat we're going to talk about in terms of special elections here tonight. This is District 23. It was previously represented by Candy King. This seat, it's a little bit of Prince William County, a little bit of Stafford County. Some places you'll see in it would be Dumfries and Quantico, maybe a little bit of Aquia Harbor along I-95 here. So this is still technically Northern Virginia, maybe in the southern reaches of what's considered Northern Virginia, but it's a pretty safe Democratic seat. And the results bore that out. Margaret Franklin, the Democrat, winning the seat, 77% of the vote. Vern Robinson, the Republican, she got 22.6%. So there was a slight swing to the Democrats here, even though they got 77% of the vote. There was a swing to the Democrats here of a little over a point. And of course, Margaret Franklin winning the seat by over 54 points. You can probably imagine this was a Democratic overperformance, and you'd be right. In fact, this is the biggest one that we've seen so far between last week and this week. So Kamala Harris won this district by about 35 points in 2024, but the Democrats winning it by 54 and change this time. It was almost a 20-point overperformance for the Democrats. So as you can see, there were 4 elections. 3 of them were Democratic overperformances. 1 of them was a Republican overperformance. As of right now, there have been 9 state legislative special elections. 6 have gone to the Democrats, 3 to the Republicans. There was one last week that might well have flipped in South Carolina, but the Republicans held on to it by just 21 votes. So no flips yet on the board. Republicans were optimistic-ish about that seat in Connecticut tonight, in that Kamala Harris only won it by a slim margin, but clearly once the results came in, nothing was going to happen there, and it only became more Democratic than it was. And then one metric we're now going to be tracking moving forward as we do these videos. At the bottom, we're going to be tracking overperformances by party. So the Democrats have now overperformed their 2024 presidential results in 8 of the 9 special elections, and the Republicans actually did get one on the board here, but just that one, and the Democrats have the other 8. So far, these numbers in and of themselves that you see on the screen, not super meaningful yet. We've only had 9 special elections, and as I've said, these are micro-level elections. These are not going to tell you national trends. You really can't start to read into it until we get more of them. when we start to have dozens of them down here, maybe even more than dozens. Who knows how many they're going to be over the course of the year. But that's when you're going to start to see the trends build as these numbers grow. Nothing yet, but the Democrats are off to a good start. And of course, we'll be tracking more special elections here at Election Yard. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see you soon.